Well, hey there, everybody. How you doing? Dave Fennoy here. Another Wednesday after several Wednesdays when I wasn't here, and another Ask Dave Fennoy Anything. Hope your world is wonderful. I've been having a pretty good world myself, if I do say so myself. How's everybody doing? I want to talk to you about a number of things today. I want to know what your complaints are about our business. I don't do a lot of complaining about our business. It's been very, or is it the old comedies, been very, very good to me. But I do have some complaints about how some things happen in our business, and I'm wondering what some of your complaints are. And by the way, since it's just me today, if you pop in now and want to say hi, I've got a little time, I can say hi to you. So just remember that. A reminder, all the Ask Dave Fennoy Anythings live on my YouTube channel, Dave Fennoy Voiceover Training. If you would be so kind to like and follow, that would be a fabulous thing. Let me just say hello here. Who's this popping in? Bull Worthless. With a question, did I like voicing Lee? Yeah, I have to say that was one of the best jobs ever, not just because the game won 100 Game of the Year awards, plus because I was nominated for awards and won some awards, not because it's the most memorable performance that I've had, but just the enjoyment of the acting because the writing was so good. I knew in the first 20 minutes of that session that this was something special. I didn't know how special, but it really was special. And I know actors, we've all been in a lot of pretty good things. We've also been in probably mostly middle of the road kinds of things, and we've all been in a few dogs. But you live for scripts, ensembles like the Walking Dead game, and it was just amazing. All right, let's see. Speaking of Walking Dead game, Stacy, the Walking Dead game fan. Hi, Dave. Nice to see you back, and hope you're doing well. I'm doing very well, Stace. Really appreciate that. Lanny Manella, greetings and gratitude to you, my friend. And for those who don't know, Lanny Manella, super talented voiceover actor and director. And you hear her on a lot of things, and I've had the pleasure of having her as a director on numerous occasions. Let's see, who else do we have here? Briscoe, what's up? Hey, Dave, missed you, brother. Hey, ADFA fam. You know, I missed you too. And while I'm rambling here, I'll tell you what I've been up to. I did a lot of traveling a few weeks ago. I had my college reunion. I don't want to tell you how many years, but it's been a while. And I went to two schools, first McAllister College in St. Paul, Minnesota, and then I finished at Howard University in Washington, D.C. Years later. When I went to McAllister, I was a theater major, but I was also playing music. And after a couple of years, I quit, went on the road as a musician for a while, went back to music at Howard in the music program. Now, I was, 18 to about 20 or so when I was in Minnesota going to McAllister College, and it was a different time. My wife went with me, and I had told her stories about life at McAllister these many years ago, and things like hitchhiking from Minnesota to the East Coast several times while I was in school there. Told her a few of those stories, which she like, no, you making this stuff up. But she got to have my stories co-signed, sometimes by people who didn't know I had told her. It wasn't me going, hey, listen, she doesn't believe this story. Would you tell her what really happened? People would just go, oh, Dave, you remember that time we did such and such? And I know I seem very sane now, a gentleman that has a good mind on his shoulders and is calm, relaxed, and sensible. But I was kind of a nut. And in so many ways, I feel like much of my success is because I didn't get caught doing some of the stuff I did back in the day. So that was one weekend in Minnesota, commiserating with so many of my old friends from back in the day, and also mourning so many of my good friends who are no longer with us. And that's, my two best friends in the world no longer here. That's gets me all the time. Let me say hello to Lyle McCarty. Hi, Dave. It's been a bit since I tuned in. Missed you. Glad to join you tonight. Thank you so much. And by the way, one of the things I'm going to talk about are some of my pet peeves with voiceover now. And those of you who are voiceover actors, what are some of your pet peeves? What are some of the things that drive you nuts? We love doing the work, but I don't care what the work is. There are things around the work that kind of drive you nuts. I'm going to bring up some of mine. Let me hear some of yours. Let's see. Steve Ward, finally able to watch ADFA live. Terry Briscoe has been telling me how great this is. Happy to be watching. Happy to have you here, Steve. And also Terry. Terry is here all the time, and I've been hearing great things about Terry. Recently, I got to hear a performance he was on something. It was just really, really good, and that makes me happy when the people I know are knocking it out of the park. Oh, man, Michael Glover, what's going on? There you go. Good to see you, sir. I am slowly coming back to life. I am so glad to hear it. I've seen your pictures. You've lost a lot of weight. I want to see your cartoon come back. Michael Glover, wonderful person, great, interesting, fun, deep, rich voice. And he's created a character, a cartoon character, whose name escapes me just at the moment, that he does himself. And this is the kind of world we're living in now where, you don't have to wait for somebody to audition you, give you a call. You can create your own content. And the content that he was creating for a while, then he had some health problems, but he's on the mend. And that cartoon will be coming back. Why don't you put in the chat there the name of that character that's escaping me just at the moment. All right, let's see. Three Beans. Love you, Dave. Three Beans. There's got to be a story in that. Where did the three beans come from? DF Raisin, greetings from Maryland. Good to see you back on ADFA. Thank you. Glad to be back. Let's see, who else is here? Steve Ward. Oh, yeah, Big T. I just did that. Marina Andrews. Well, Martina Andrews. Well, hi there to you. Quick hi. Oh, Cecil Jones. There it is. Michael Glover has a character he calls Cecil Jones, and you should also put in there where people can see it. I know it's on the website someplace. So let people know, because it's just a wonderful character and quite brilliant. And I truly expect, if you keep doing this, pretty soon you're going to be on somebody's Disney cartoon or some cartoon with that character playing a major role. Let's see. Annabelle's Voice. I haven't been fortunate enough to book as much as most. I would love to have something that annoys me, but not enough experience yet. Well, you got something that annoys you. You're not booking as much as you'd like. I'm going to talk about the other thing that I did that was quite an honor to do. I was asked to be on a panel for voiceover at the ABFF 2024. That's the African Black Film Festival in Miami. The week after I was in Minnesota for my college reunion. And it was amazing trying to get there. I had a nonstop flight booked. I was taking off, and that was on a Wednesday, so I couldn't have been here. I was on a Wednesday, and the flight took off, and it was raining in Miami. But it wasn't just raining, it was pouring, thundering down rain. And my flight had to land not in Miami, but Atlanta, where we sat on the ground for a few hours while they tried to figure out, are we going to be able to get to Miami and land? And of course, we had some people that maybe they weren't going to Miami and they could make some changes, but we had a few Karens. There was one lady on this plane who was just insistent that this American Airlines plane either had to take off now because she wanted to, or she was getting off the plane and she was going to take another flight that she knew would take her to Miami. And they tried to say, well, ma'am, I don't know where you're going to get another flight. This is American Airlines. We're in Atlanta. It's not one of our hubs. Everybody was trying to be so nice, and she huffed and puffed and got off the plane, and who knows if she ever got where she was going. I'm sure it took her twice as long as she thought it was going to take. But finally got there. Miami was a mess. The streets were, some places you could drive in one lane where the water was only 2 or 3 inches deep, but in the next lane it was 5 or 6 inches deep. Some roads were closed. It had wreaked havoc with a lot. There was supposed to be a party that night that didn't happen, nor the next night. And we were scheduled, Joan Baker, Rudy Gaskins, and I, and our hosts, were going to be doing this panel about 1 o'clock on Thursday afternoon. They couldn't get there. They had tried to fly in also Wednesday evening. They ended up in North Carolina someplace and didn't arrive until a little after the time we should have been on. But the schedule was changed and we got to do it later that evening, and it was really good. Plus, I got to take a picture with Bobby Brown. Hey, how about that? Let's see. Briscoe Voice has something. Here's something that I would just understand, that I don't understand about the business. We're off to the subject that I really want to talk about now. We take classes with 3 amazing CDs and studio execs, and we knock it out of the park. They sometimes don't respond. So you're saying now, is it that you think you knocked it out of the park, or somebody else was telling you that you knocked it out of the park? You know, one of the big issues with anything you're learning to do, sometimes you can become perfect at doing it wrong. Sometimes if you don't know what the scale, what the measure is of what's good or what's not, what's working or what's not, you can believe you're wonderful when you're not. And you may feel ever so good about that thing you're doing. I've created this, it feels right. I've got this style that I've done, and but it doesn't touch people here and here. And that's what we have to do as voice actors. No matter what the job is, if we're narrating a book, if we're doing a commercial, if we're doing a cartoon or a game character, you got to touch people here and here. The question I always ask you to ask yourself is not, does it sound good? But do you believe your performance? Does the character have the ring of truth? Now, if they're not telling you that's a good performance and it really is, shame on them. Shame on them. You've got to tell your students the truth. You don't have to be brutal, but you do have to tell them the truth. This is good. This is better. Now you're hitting it. Now you're ready to do this. And I hope that, if you're taking a class with me, when you hit it out of the park, I'm going to tell you, you hit it out of the park. But I'm not going to tell you that if you didn't. Okay. Just since we were just talking to you and you had another one, when you reach out to them, sometimes even when it's just thanking them, wow, I want people to know the truth. And I think sometimes I hope that all teachers, I know not all teachers, but most of the people that I would recommend that I have had the honor of being on stage with or on a panel with as a speaker and teacher at various conventions, most of those people are ever so good, are ever so knowledgeable, do know how to tell you the truth and help you find those things that you can improve. And at the same time, help you find the you in your reads. Because all too often, you know, we're hearing these reads that we like, we're hearing these voices that we like and these performances, and we're trying to imitate that. Not necessarily a bad thing. It's how musicians learn to play. I want to play like Jimi Hendrix. We're going to listen to Jimi Hendrix. You're going to learn his licks. But sooner or later, they have to become yours. They might be the same licks, but it's got to be a little something that's just you in there. And the more you can allow the you to come through, the more the ring of truth you're going to have in your performances. All right, Lyle McCarty. If Miami didn't have their canal system, the entire city would flood. Glad you made it. I was too. The next couple of days actually got very nice. And I have to say thank you to, we were sponsored by Meta, the Facebook people on our panel. And boy, they took us to dinner every night we were there, and we ate like kings. It was quite amazing. Let's see. This is a big long one from Marina. Wow. All right, here we go. Annabelle's voice. I've taken classes where the CD is totally distracted and you don't feel like you got a full feedback. I get a little frustrated when I pay and get 50% attention and don't get 100%. You know what, Annabelle? I understand. I know how much, how tired I am when I'm done with a class. Because you have to give your full attention. You can't be looking at your phone or looking over here, looking over there. You really have to be focused on this read, what's working, what's not working, and be able to answer those questions not only for your student but for yourself. Why is this working or why isn't it working? And it takes a long time to get there. There are a lot of people who do very well in this business, but they can't tell you what it is about their performance that makes it work. They know they can do it, but they can't tell you how to do it. Got to be careful of those people too. Let's see, Bobby Cowell, similar to Terry, my frustration with the business is not getting feedback. I can't believe this. This is interesting. From agent submissions, audition feedback. Without some feedback, I don't know how to adjust to become more bookable. All right, this is a little different story. When you're talking about agents and coming back with feedback, maybe once a year, you should sit down with your agents and have a talk about your submissions and what they feel about your work. Most agents just don't have the time to give feedback, positive or negative, to each of their clients. Most of the agents have hundreds of clients. They're getting dozens and dozens of auditions every day. They just don't have time because they're also fielding calls from people who want to hire their talent and negotiate the prices for their talent. They don't have time to give you the kind of feedback that you'd like. So often we as actors kind of want our hand held. Is it okay? Is it good? Tell me, did it work? You want that feedback, but you're not going to get it from your agent on a regular basis. I'll tell you how you know when you're doing it right. You start booking. And if you're not booking, you are at least getting callbacks and are put on a veil. A lot of times when they put you on a veil, and those who don't know, I think most of you do, but if you're put on a veil, Basically what they're saying, we liked what you did. We want to set aside this date and time in case we decide to hire you. Chances are you're put on a veil. There may be 2 or 3 other people that are on a veil as well. And perhaps the casting person made several choices that the client then is going to make the final choice and maybe hasn't made the final choice. And sometimes that choice is, oh, we actually like this person better. Or, oh, that person we really like isn't available, so we're going to get this person. Or, oh, the person we really like is in another town with a home studio, and we're not sure about that home studio, and we've got this person in town who'll go into a studio. It can be a lot of different things beyond your performance. They're screening through hundreds of auditions that come in, and it probably gets down to 5 or 10, and then that might get down to 2 or 3 that might get put on a veil. All right. I'm gonna take this so you know. Annabelle's voice. Yeah, I took your VWO class, and you were 100%. You can't not be. And I think if you're in a class and you have a sense that that instructor is not paying attention, not responding, call them out. Call them out. And if they're doing it through, say, a voiceover school or group, let them know, hey, listen, I was unsatisfied with that. And here's what wasn't working for me. Because the thing you really do want is for somebody to tell you what you're doing right and what you're not doing that well and how you can improve. Okay, this is going to be a long one. A book, ladies and gentlemen, from Michael Glover. Thank you so much, Dave, for the shout out. You touched my heart to the core. Yes, doing my own character and producing my own projects is giving me the most joy in my career. However, doing auditions for other people's projects is still fun. Of course it is, but not as rewarding to me. I'm in the process of producing my next Cecil Jenkins video now. You guys can find Cecil on my YouTube channel, Pet VO Peeve. Pet VO Peeve? Oh, that was not his YouTube channel. That was question. Engineering. Is that your pet VO Peeve? Engineering? Having to be your own engineer? I tell you, just hitchhiking off of what you just said there, that is one of the most interesting, is interesting the word I want to use, that can be problematic. Depending on what kind of work you're doing. If you're doing audiobooks, maybe you're setting and forgetting. If you're doing auditions or commercials, maybe you're setting and forgetting. Narration, setting and forgetting. If you're doing animation video games, characters that go from a whisper to a scream, yeah, you are your own engineer. And that can be a little nerve-wracking. But one of the things that'll happen for you very quickly, you'll learn the knob. If you're going to do something that's kind of whispery, you know how high to turn it up. If you're doing something very loud, you've learned how low to turn it. It's just a matter of doing it long enough and it becomes second nature. Some of my pet peeves, because I work a lot and have a lot of auditions and I also teach, sometimes I'm a little annoyed by how quick a turnaround agents and managers want you to get those auditions back. I have a joke sometimes that I say, well, geez, working is getting in the way of my auditioning. I really think that auditioning is our real work. My joy is in performing, and I'm not going to say I don't enjoy performing on auditions. But this is how we get those opportunities to play for pay, is auditioning. And often, this morning, I had to be in Santa Monica at 9 o'clock. It was a 9-to-1 gig. I did get out of there a little bit after 12. But it meant I missed an audition that had come in at 10 and they needed by 12. And this happens a lot. If I'm working with a student, I've got an hour here, say at 11 a.m. to 11:50, and an audition comes in at 11, well, I'm not going to not take my student then. And sometimes it's a window of an hour. That I find a little bit annoying. I'd like at least a day. Could we at least get a day? But that doesn't always happen. How many of you are signing NDA after NDA after NDA after NDA? Non-disclosure agreements. This was not a part of the business when I started in this business in 1990. And as a matter of fact, it's just been in the last few years, video game, commercial, animation, that we've started to see all these NDAs. And I think it coincides with social media. Too many of us want to share too much of what we're doing. I have a colleague, I'm not going to mention his name. His path and my path have been different. We're both doing very well. He works more on the side of the business that's non-union, that's from the pay-to-play sites or his own efforts getting work. And he also teaches. He's a very good teacher. And he will play, he will allow you in while he's doing his work. I can't do that. My clients are too high profile. They would drop me like a dirty habit, like a bad habit. Oh, people don't drop bad habits real well, do they? Wrong phrase. I think a lot of people would not would change their minds about using me if I were, oh, and here's the script I've got from this client, this advertiser, so forth, and I'm just going to, show you how I do this audition. The work I do is too public. But that's the problem. Too many people have taken that very public work and they want to talk about the audition that they got, and it's this company and it's this new product and this is my audition, or I got a call back on this thing, and they're spilling the beans, spilling the tea on things that these companies don't want the beans spilled on. I've gone into a few studios lately where they will take your cell phone. Well, they don't actually take them. They tell you, put your cell phone in this lockbox. You cannot take the cell phone past the receptionist desk. Put it in this lockbox. You get to put your own little number in there. We won't be messing with it. But you won't be taking pictures in that studio. Why? Because people have gone in, and sure, you might want to take a picture of yourself on mic in this particular studio, but you've got to be careful about things like taking a picture of yourself and the screen with the script on it, or pictures of the characters on it, is right there for the world to see. Video game companies, animation companies, commercial companies are very, very secretive. They don't want information getting out until it's time for it to get out. So be careful about what you're posting on social media. And this is the reason we have so many NDAs. And, what's your name and what's the address and blah, 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 blah. And send this in. It's got to go in before or with the audition, so forth and so on. It's just more paperwork. Well, it's actually not on paper because I don't print anything, but you know what I mean. So that's a problem. Let's see. Bobby Kyle again. For your video game auditions, do you typically deliver one take or an ABC? What is normally being requested by the client? Very good question. I have seen some clients become very specific now that give me one take unless the next take is very, very different. And by very, very different, it's you're playing the same character, but with a whole different take on that character. The take might be as simple as now he has an accent, but even then, sometimes they're wanting to find something else in this character's background that changes it up. Often they'll say, look, if the read is basically the same character, same tones, you just did a little faster, a little slower, you just changed up a few things, don't bother giving a second take. If you can do it in one take and you don't have something that's completely different and wonderful, just send the one take. One of the reasons I want you to put yourselves in the position of the people who are listening. Do you have any idea how many auditions they're listening to of that same character, those same lines, over and over? And all of us, no matter how old we are, our attention spans are much shorter than they once were. So do yourself a favor and let them be on your side by just getting that one great take. Now, if you got a second take, really different, also really great, go for it. Sometimes if it's a shorter piece, maybe if you've got 5 lines, maybe you do want to go those 5 lines and then give it a different take that's very different. Or maybe do an ABC on each line and something different about them. And what would be different? What you're thinking, how you're reacting, what you're reacting to, how far away the character you're talking to is, how many you're talking to, or whether you're talking to yourself. Those are the kinds of things that may justify your being able to do more than one take. All right, Jimmy Bancole. I'm guilty as charged of what Dave's talking about. Well, I've been talking about a lot of things, Jimmy. Which one in particular? Oh, boy. Mr. Briscoe. You know, Terry, I'm just going to tell you, man, I so appreciate how interested you are in this, our art, and how many questions you have. You're asking questions that a lot of people would like to ask, or maybe they didn't even think of asking them. But because you ask, they're getting a lot of information that they might not have otherwise. For animations that are adaptations from video games, which style of acting... Whoops, I talked too long and my 30 seconds went up. Okay, it's back. Which style of acting do you lean into? I know usually animation is over the top and video games are more real. Does it being an adaptation matter? You know, it's interesting. I'm just going to say Batman, and think of the number of Batman cartoons, Batman movies, Batman video games. Most of them have offered a different feel. That some have been down, dirty, and gritty. And then there was Batman, which was very cartoony as a television show. So you have to look at the individual property. What are the clues they give? They might tell you right out front, oh, this is very campy, this is very funny. This, you can go over the top. But read the script, read the description, the game description or the animation description of the style, and it probably will be there. And if it's not, because sometimes they don't give you a game or cartoon description, more often a cartoon description, sometimes a game description, they're like, I don't know why they're leaving it out, they ought to have it in there. But sometimes the script itself will give you the clues of what the level of intensity or comedy is in that script. And that's what you want to follow. And how do you learn how to do that? You got to read a lot of scripts. You got to read a lot of scripts. The 10,000 hours that it takes for mastery. Got to read a lot of scripts. Got to learn to take those words off the page. Okay, let's see. Mac McGee, it is amazing how easily you can accidentally let something slip. My first gig was an anime. My character was a background character called Centaur 829C. I thought it was funny. I mentioned it to a friend. The friend was really into anime and was able to figure out that from the name, what anime it was and what episode. Luckily, it didn't get me into trouble. I don't say anything anymore until it airs. wisdom. Sometimes we got to learn from our mistakes. I was working on a cartoon, Guardians of the Galaxy. I was playing Korath. That was the Jaimin Hansu part, if you saw the original movie. And we had sat on this thing for about a year. And then my agent sent me an email announcing that the cartoon was going to begin airing on such and such a date. And it mentioned the two leading characters and who the actors were. Well, of course, I knew it was my turn to mention it too. And I put it on Facebook. Hey, coming up on Tuesday, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. 10 minutes later, I get a call from the director. Dave, you don't have permission to do that. Take it down immediately. Of course, by that time, several people had, oh, man, congratulations, boy, I'm going to look forward to it, so forth and so on. And we also happened to have a gig that date. And I went in and I thought, well, they're going to fire my ass, or at least I'm going to get chewed out by somebody. But it turns out I wasn't the only one. The fact that they sent it to agents and agents sent it to everybody in the cast, several of us made the misconception that we were allowed now to make mention online, and we weren't. So all was forgiven, but you got to be careful. I know Lonnie has something wonderful to say. I find it irksome when you don't get a pronunciation guide, especially for the name of the company in a commercial. Especially when you can find it on YouTube, when you can't find it on YouTube or by Googling it. It helps to bold, capitalize, or italicize the stressed syllable. That's very true, and it's as bad in video games and cartoons when we're talking about other worlds and names and characters that nobody's ever seen before, and especially thinking of the number of pharmaceuticals with all these made-up names and companies now with all these made-up names. Someone really needs to tell you. But let me just say this. Yeah, that happens, but the internet is your friend there, because that's where you can search. You can find these companies. You can find these products. Sometimes there'll be a commercial. I'll get a commercial audition, and it's saying all these wonderful things, but it's not really telling you what the product is. It doesn't say it's for your belly. It doesn't say it's to clean your windows. It does. You don't know. You just somehow they've written all around what this thing actually does besides satisfy something that you need doing. And sometimes you have to look it up and go, oh, it's a pair of shoes. Okay, I got it. It's amazing. It's amazing because you have to know what you're talking about. And all too often, they don't want to give you enough information. And I'm just going to say, we humans, we are so fallible. And we're fallible in this business. I often find it a good thing when I find mistakes in scripts, especially if it's a script I'm using to teach with, because you get to understand that not all this is perfect. People can be lazy. People can forget things. People can misspell things. Sometimes you don't completely trust what you've got in front of you, especially if a question comes to mind looking at it. Sometimes it's the wrong word. Sometimes the syntax is backwards. Sometimes it's misspelled. It's the wrong tense. It should be plural, but it's not. Use your God-given sense to make adjustments. Just because it's on paper and came to you doesn't mean it's absolutely 100% correct. Use your brain. Lyle McCarty. I keep hearing stories of directors or clients changing their minds on the specs off the read. I've submitted to auditions, and right after they change the specs, the audition becomes moot. Well, that's going to happen, unfortunately. Clients aren't just one person making the decision. Often that decision is being made by a group And sometimes there's one person that's really in charge, and they really make the final decision with input from these other people. And sometimes it's everybody's trying to get their word in, and they're trying to accommodate everybody. So they're really not sure. And that's when you're the person that gets hired and you go to the session and you're, what? Oh, you want just the opposite? Oh, but you want. It can be frustrating. It can be really frustrating. One of the things I'm going to suggest that you do, take in what they're saying, then read through that copy and make your own decision about how this should be. I don't want you to ignore what they're saying, but I want you to find what is the most important thing that you bring to it based on what they're asking for. I've also run into that issue sometimes. They have told you they want A, B, C. You auditioned, you gave them A, B, C. 3 weeks later, you hear it on air, and it's X, Y, Z. It's diametrically opposed to the thing they asked for. Sorry, just the nature of the business. Somebody changed their mind. Somebody gave them a read that they didn't know they wanted. I remember this clearly on a Panera Bread. They had asked for something very specific. I heard the thing 3 weeks later, and it was a little girl. And it was wonderful. It was really wonderful. Once again, take into account what they're asking for. Now, use your own taste. What do you see? What do you hear? What does this say to you? How can you bring you to it in a unique but truthful way? All right. Steve Ward, pet peeve, hearing in workshops, coaches, etc., constantly going back and forth about if we are to follow the specs when auditioning. Which is it, please? It's this, and it's this over here. It's follow the specs, and it's don't follow the specs. This is kind of what I was talking about. I forget who it was who said it. I'm not going to claim it as my own. But one of my director or actor friends said at one time, you want to give them what they didn't know they wanted. Sometimes you can box yourself into not bringing an authentic you if you're trying so hard to give them the specs you think they want. You want to bring your own truth to this. Sometimes you just happen to be what it exactly is they're looking for. But sometimes you've got a take that nobody else has. So, double-edged sword, my friend. I wish I could say, yes, definitely, always give them the specs exactly as they asked for it. Maybe. Sorry, I don't have a better answer than that. And I don't think anybody can give you a better answer than that. Michael Glover, spilled my water bottle all over my wireless keyboard in my booth this morning. I'm sorry, shouldn't laugh at your pain. Something I learned a long time ago in VO. Note to us all, have 2 of everything you need to record. I was lucky I had a new one standing by. Oh, boy. I'd written down some of my pet peeves here, and going back to what you just, conflicting instructions and directions. This kind of fits in, well, what are they asking for? Sometimes they're diametrically opposed instructions on a character. Well, the character is kind of funny, but he's very serious. What? Things are often done by committee, and everybody might be in a little power structure. Yes, pay attention, read what they're saying, but you have to find the truth of that character. It's going to be somewhat in what they said, I'm sure, but even more so in the lines that are given, especially if you're seeing them interact with other characters. What is that dialogue telling you? If you were having this dialogue in this world that they've created, what would you think? What would you feel? Would you be trusting or not trusting? Would you be in charge or at the mercy of? Got to make those decisions. All right. And DF Raisin, I'm glad Terry Briscoe asked all those great questions. There's still so much info that I need, but I'm still so new to this. I don't always know what questions I need to ask. Don't know what you don't know. I know the feeling. Thanks, brother. You are welcome. And that is so true. Early on, a lot of times you don't know what you don't know. I'm always trying to find new ways, new and different ways to explain how to become a good voice actor. I remember listening to things like, just have fun with it, throw it away. And early on, I didn't quite understand what that meant. I think a lot of times we get a script, and if we're somebody who talks like this, and this is our voice, and this is our natural rhythm, and then suddenly we're trying to do something very different, and we're trying to bring something else that we think is necessary, and suddenly it has lost the ring of truth. That's not to say you can't have a character that's pompous and whatever, but it still has to have the ring of truth for that character. And all too often, we're paying too much attention to the words and not enough attention to the character. We're trying to say it in a particular song that we think gives the word meaning, when in fact, we need to be this character with this particular worldview that's reacting to something in this particular moment in time, just like you do. Easier said than done. Let's see. Another one of my pet peeves, small print. I can't believe sometimes you get a script and they might give you all the instructions big, and then the print is really teeny tiny and you're trying to look and, let me get my glasses on and can I see it? Oh. Fortunately, most of the time, you can make that copy as big as you want. You can copy it over, put it in Word, make it bold, make it big, underline what you want, highlight what you want. And this leads me to one of my biggest pet peeves. PDFs that you can't do anything to. You can't highlight them, you can't make them bigger, you can't copy them. They are what they are. You try to change anything, you try to make it bigger, or you try to underline, highlight, and you get, I'm sorry, you can't do this. I'm sorry, you can't do. And this is because of this lack of trust that the people who hire us have with we voice actors as a community. And we're partially responsible for that. And thank you or screw you, social media, because way too many of us could not resist the idea, oh, I got this script, I'm doing this thing, let me show you this. Calling your friend, oh, I got this audition and it's so and so and so. Oh, well, let me send it to you. And what happens if, and this has happened to me, I have a student that wants some help with an audition, and they've been sent this script. If I'm going to help them with it, I got to see the script. And my student is going to have to trust me if they can actually even send it. There are ways to get around it, but why should you have to get around it? You can take a picture of your screen and then manipulate some things. But why should we have to go to all of that? And it's going to take two things. One, letting them know what a pain in the ass it is when you can't manipulate the script to make it bigger, to underline things. Oftentimes there's so much writing. You've got stage directions. You've got alternate dialogue. It's all written small. And what you really want is, okay, I want to read through. I want to know what I'm responding to. But right now, I want to see these words that I have to say, these lines that I have to say. I want to highlight them. I want to make a mark that says it's here if I can't highlight them. And it becomes very, very, very troublesome. Are you listening, industry? Please make the PDFs easy to manipulate. And voiceover actors, don't go willy-nilly just sending these things out or showing them online and telling people who have no business all the things that you're auditioning and working on. All right, let's see. Richelieu Hoff Jr., commercial cue. An audition I finished included alts. Should these be read with the same emotion as the lines they could replace or do something different from the previous? Thanks for the VO demo, big dog. Oh, yeah, I did Richelieu's demo. He loves it, and actually it turned out really good. That's a good question. Generally, they do want the alts, and sometimes the alts is the same feeling. It's just written in a few different words. Maybe it's a little shorter. Maybe the syntax is switched around or something. So typically, I'm going to say rule of thumb, the alt is probably in a similar emotional vein as the original line. Afro Power. Which fictional characters do you really want to do voiceovers for? Thank you, sir. Wow. I want to do them all. I enjoy doing a wide variety of characters. I've had very good fortune in this business to play a lot of characters. I have played characters who are highly educated and stupid. I've played characters who have next to no education but are brilliant, and everything in between. I have played much older people, and I've played much younger people. I've played characters that are big. I've played characters that are very little. And I've just had great fortune with all of that. I love doing the work in general. So it's hard for me to say I love doing this kind of character over that kind of character. I really love playing bad guys. I also really love playing good guys. And probably most, I'm kind of contradicting myself a little bit here, probably the most fun thing is to play a character that's not all good or not all bad, that is a little more complicated. There are a lot of characters you play in video games and cartoons that are fairly stereotypical. You always want to try to find something outside that stereotype that you can bring to it, and usually that's something in you, sometimes not even something that you control. It's just the rhythm of your speech, your feeling of what anger feels like and what being suspicious feels like, sounds like, how you actually react to these things, because then you're bringing your truth to it. Let's see. J. Horace Black, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, I'm signing a ton of NDAs. One even wanted an audio recording of me saying, so I've signed the NDA. I've had a few of those where on your audition they say, hi, this is Dave Fennoy, and I am acknowledging that I will not do this and blah, blah, blah. I've read the NDA and I agree to its terms and blah, 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 blah. Come on. Really? But I'm going to say a lot of us have done this to ourselves. And once again, I'm on social media. I like social media, but, double-edged sword, baby. We've got to have some discipline not to just talk about everything. I had a voiceover friend of mine when he got started in the business, a really talented guy. And when he really got to working, got signed, got to working, doing some great stuff, he started posting checks. And it was like, dude, this is, no, you don't post pictures of the checks you've got. A, it's bragging. B, you are not going to have people really cheering you on about that. We all want to say, hey, I had this great gig, I did this. That's great. That's fine. But when you start bragging about, oh, I made this much money on this. Oh, look at the check. Not the way to go. Not the way to go. To slate or not to slate, not really a problem. In times of yore, we always slated your name. Sometimes your name and the character you were playing. Sometimes your name is you and the character you're playing is the character. Or sometimes your name and the character name as the character. But nowadays, I'm going to say rule of thumb, slate if they don't say anything. But make sure when you're reading those instructions, and there are a lot of them now in our auditions, make sure you're looking for slate or you want to find that no slate. They typically aren't going to say slate or don't slate. Oh, they're going to say don't slate. But if they say don't slate, slate. Sometimes I've had agents that want you to slate at the end. And I think we've all gotten over this. But the slate with a little information after it. Hi, this is Dave Fennoy, and I'm playing the character so-and-so in this game. I just want to say I really like this script. The script is really good. And I know Joe Blow, who works at your company, and I was just hoping maybe since I know Joe Blow that, you could... No. Don't do that. Lyle McCarty. For the record, I don't take a lot of stock in those social media groups. Once again, double-edged sword. I think social media groups and voiceover can be a plus, but you've got to be discerning about who you're listening to. People have all kinds of advice that is often bad. Thinking about, say, for instance, equipment. Simpler is better. What has been working for a long time? What is new? That new shiny thing isn't always better. That's not to say at some point get that better microphone or that better interface or whatever. But don't be the first one to jump in with that new shiny thing. If you're starting off right now, a Rode NT1, you're not going to go wrong with a Rode NT1 microphone. You're going to spend a little bit more money. Say you're going to get a Neumann 102. You're not going to go wrong with that. You're going to spend a little bit more money. You're going to go with a Neumann 103 workhorse. You'll use it the rest of your life. You want a 416? That's my mic of choice. I use it every day, no matter what the genre is. So you don't need a huge collection of microphones, despite the fact that I have a huge collection of microphones. Get what's tried and true. Do that survey of what are the people who are working using. And don't go for the oddball guy that just happened. He's got this off-brand microphone and this off-brand interface. I remember somebody years ago, well, I like a dynamic microphone, but I put it through this special interface, and it makes it like a condenser mic. Well, just get the friggin' condenser mic. All right. Sorry about that. I got carried away. Wow, Lyle, you just had a bunch of questions here back to back. Posting checks is slimy. Real estate investors that teach others how they screw people out of their homes do that. Yeah. What's that? The nouveau riche. If you're the person buying, all the gold chains and the flashy cars and the flashy clothes, it basically says, I've never had money and I don't know what to do with it. There's an old saying, most of the people buying most of the designer stuff are poor people trying to impress other poor people. Or if they're not poor, they're not rich. But they're trying to impress, keeping up with the Joneses, that kind of thing. I guess in some way we all might be guilty of that, but you don't have to. You don't have to try to impress anybody. Be impressive in who you are, and everything else will follow. Let's see. Only one. Oh, yeah. What about vocal health? Anybody having problems with their vocal health? I know from time to time, I think because I do so many video games, and after you hit a certain age, your voice does not have as much strength and power as it once did. I used to be able to sing. I don't have a singer's voice anymore. Problems with your vocal health? How about scheduling? I have a number of agents from a number of different places. So scheduling auditions, this is due at this time, this is due at this time, this is due at this time. How are you doing with your scheduling? And I just realized it's 7:01, so I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to leave you with one more pet peeve. Celebrity VO. Celebrities taking over commercials and definitely animated movies. Good thing, bad thing. I'm going to tell you why we're seeing so many celebrities doing commercials. Truth of character. They know who they are. They know how to bring the reality, the truth of character to that microphone. That's why we see so many celebrities doing commercials. And if their voices are recognized, we all as a society are kind of in love with celebrity. So much so we create them out of reality television and damn near anything else. In the cartoon movie world, a lot of those movies wouldn't get made if they didn't have celebrities attached. The people who are putting up the money want to see some big names. Sorry. Now, does it piss me off? Kind of. But guess what? I get to play smaller roles in a lot of those films. And a lot of other, what I will call journeyman voice actors like myself, get to do a lot of work in those films that might not otherwise be made. So they add to what we're making. Double-edged sword. All right. Well, that's going to wrap it up. I didn't think this would go this long. We'd have this much to talk about. I'm always very happy when I can do this and we can just kind of shoot from the hip and have a sort of a conversation. You're writing things and I'm responding here. Want to remind you once again, all the Ask Dave Fennoy Anythings live on my YouTube channel, Dave Fennoy Voiceover Training. Please like and subscribe. If you are interested in voiceover coaching with me, davefennoy.com. Click on the Study VO tab. You can get 1, 5, 10, 20 sessions. And, of course, the more you buy, the cheaper it is. You can follow me at Dave Fennoy VO on Twitter X. And until next week, I want you to do something for me. You know what it is. Book something.